President Klerk, Excellencies, colleagues, and friends. I feel that the day was one in which we put our minds and our hearts together. We were true to ourselves in what we think, but also in what we feel. And we channeled the two to make a commitment, to renew our commitment. The summary, which was presented by the rapporteur, I think it reflects very well the discussions we had, and I want to fully endorse. I was thinking of adding what precisely President de Klerk has mentioned. It's the responsibility which we as civil society organizations have in these issues of accountability and our responsibility, and to use the resources we receive, to use them effectively, and to make sure that every cent is properly accountable to serve children, women, communities, and whatever we criticize in terms of how governments work, we should be an example of how to work better and what are the reference in transparency we can produce ourselves. I think our generation is challenged in a particular way. We are in a time of history in which instruments for human rights have been so well refined. We are in time in history where we are producing huge amounts of wealth, which have not been produced before. We are in time in history where science and technology has evolved in ways which our parents even and grandparents could not have ever imagined. We remember even ourselves 10 years ago, 15 years ago, what was the internet? But today we have incredible means of communication, incredible means of connecting with one another and to effect a change. We are in time in history where it will be difficult, extremely difficult, for generations to come to understand how we allow people, human beings, to die because we can't provide food, we can't provide clean water. It will be extremely difficult for other generations to understand how our basic moral value, how do we take a human being? What kind of value we give to a human being? How do we put together human beings and things? And in other words, to be crude, how we put human beings and money, and what value we give to each one of them. At the end of the day, I think that's the problem. It's what is the value of a human being in our society today, in our generation, and how, with that value, we make sure that there's no any kind of excuse for us to allow needlessly human beings to be wasted. What I'm saying is we need to talk the language which goes beyond these statistics we're talking about. We need to use the language which goes beyond only the responsibility which has been consecrated in constitutions, in laws. We need to confront one another in different levels, whether you are a president, minister, or you are a governor, whether you are a business person, whether you are like us, civil society organizations, and to say, how can we explain to ourselves that human lives will be wasted while people are busy, very, very busy, accumulating money which they will not be able to spend. Even 5 generations after them, they can't spend that money. And how can we explain that our governments will make all these promises and repeat promises, but they just fail to give clean water to a child and a woman? I think the language of how we challenge this is also important. We have to be humanize, if I can say, to humanize even more the demand for accountability in all of us, in different levels. You know, some generations are judged in history like they did in the First and Second World War. The millions of people, if you go from malnutrition, for hunger, and health, and all this, all together, in 10 years' time, they probably are much more than the victims of the First and Second World War. And that is the legacy under which our generation is going to be judged by generations to come. And I insist, with all the knowledge, with all the international instruments which we refined, with all the wealth which is being generated, with all the knowledge and scientific knowledge and technology we have, and all the capacity to communicate and to connect and make a difference in seconds, with all that, our generation is going to be judged for having wasted millions of lives. And I think those generations will not forgive us. And now we have 5 years. The 5 years which we agreed we wanted to make this very significant change. I picked at the beginning, at the introduction, act first. And I would add, act effectively. Act fast, act effectively. We'll be together to judge in 2015 how much we have done. Thank you.